And do you think what you just said there, do you think that perhaps some countries haven't fully understood yet how to do this? Even the ones that have said, yes, we need to get people staying at home, we need to lock down. But, for example, in India, people are locked down, but they can't get access to food. They're saying that we're going to starve to death. Some countries perhaps don't even understand how to do this properly, even though they're trying?
Well, it's very difficult, and of course you have to have a huge apparatus of deliveries, etc. India is a country in which I've visited several times, and the situation there must be absolutely nightmarish. But the fundamental thing that you've got to understand is you've got to impose the strictest possible measures. All this, for example, just simply giving people advice and so on. I was on your programme earlier, I was seeing, for example, the United States, they're saying this is not a lockdown, this is a travel advisory. Well, I'm sorry, those measures won't deal with it. You have to have a proper lockdown, otherwise you won't do. Gradually, each country will be forced to move towards the type of measures which China has got. I mean, I'm not saying this to criticise anybody, because the situation is much too serious to engage in sort of political or other type of attacking of people. What I want them to do is I want them to study China. Instead of the criticisms which is appearing in the Western press, they should be desperately in contact with China, asking them for the advice. China's also by far the biggest manufacturing country in the world. It can help enormously with supplies of medical equipment.
When we get to a point where things have dramatically improved, nobody knows, of course, when that will be. How do you think China is going to be perceived? Because, as you said, there's been a lot of criticism for the country because of a perceived lack of transparency at the start of the outbreak. But at the same time, they've been praised hugely from the likes of the World Health Organization.
Well, yes, there's no need to romanticise things. This was a virus which nobody had ever seen before, so therefore it was absolutely impossible that everything would be done right at the beginning, and it wasn't, and China doesn't claim it was. What they have done is, once they decided on the decisive measures, I say they were able to stop the rise in the number of cases after 13 days. And it then took a further 6 weeks to get it down to zero, but it showed that it could be stopped. I think the situation is so serious that all this nonsense which is appearing about China and criticism will be just cut through, because this is going to be the most global cataclysmic event since World War II. Many people, in fact almost all people, don't want to die, and therefore they will have a situation in which they will have to learn the truth. So my view is that all the misrepresentations and nonsense which is coming out will fall away, and people will understand that China is the only country which has got the virus fully under control. I mean, somebody said to me on an exchange, well, what about China's human rights record? I said, China's human rights record in this is keeping people alive.